Saturday night, August 30th, 2025. A quiet block in Houston, Texas. Two kids do what kids have done for generations. Ring a doorbell and sprint away, laughing. Seconds later, two shots crack the calm. An 11-year-old, Julian Guzman, is hit, rushed to the hospital, and by the next day he's gone. Police say the homeowner, Gonzalo Leon Jr., 42, fired the shots. Prosecutors call it an unjustifiable response to a childish prank. He's now charged with murder, held on a $1 million bond, and could face even more serious charges as evidence is reviewed, including video said to be from the child's phone the night of the shooting. Tonight, we carefully reconstruct what happened on that street, what investigators say, what the law allows, and how one split-second decision rippled through an entire community. This is Mystery Case Files, the ding-dong ditch case that shocked Houston. Julian was more than just an 11-year-old boy. He was a brother, a son, a cousin. His family described him as the kind of child who could bring light into a room with nothing more than a grin. He was playful, sometimes mischievous, but always full of warmth. At home, Julian loved playing video games with his cousins and making up silly challenges. His parents said he was all energy, all the time. Whether he was helping in the kitchen, running through the yard, or sitting on the couch with his family, Julian carried with him an innocence that reminded everyone how precious childhood really is. His cousin, who was with him that night, shared that this wasn't the first time they'd played ding-dong ditch. It was one of their favorite jokes. For the kids, it was never about causing trouble. It was about laughing so hard your stomach hurt, running down the block together and whispering, "Did they come out? Did they see us?" The neighborhood where Julian lived wasn't known for crime or chaos. It was a quiet corner of Houston where families felt safe letting their children ride bikes or chase each other down the street. Parents often looked out for one another, and kids played long after the sun went down. Neighbors would later say they heard laughter that night, normal sounds of kids being kids. Nobody expected what was coming. It's a prank with a long history, one that most people brush off as harmless. You knock, you run, and that's usually the end of it. For kids, it's a way to test boundaries, to feel a little daring without actually doing something destructive. But for Julian, this prank would become the last game he ever played. And for his cousin, it would become a memory that no child should have to carry. As the clock moved closer to midnight, the children prepared for just one more prank. They walked toward the home of Gonzalo Leon Jr., unaware that behind that door was someone who didn't see their laughter as innocent fun. What happened next would unravel the peace of an entire neighborhood. It was late evening on August 30th, 2025. The summer heat had finally started to fade, and the streets were quiet. Most families were inside finishing dinner or settling in for the night. For Julian and his cousin, though, the night wasn't over. They decided on one last prank, one last chance to laugh before heading home. The target was the house of Gonzalo Leon Jr., a 42-year-old man who lived just a few doors down. The kids crept toward the front porch, whispered to each other, and then, ding-dong. With giggles, they sprinted away into the darkness. Inside the home, Leon reacted almost instantly. Instead of shrugging it off or even opening the door to see who was there, he reached for a gun. Moments later, the quiet street erupted. According to investigators, Leon stepped outside and fired 2 shots. The first missed. The second struck Julian as he ran. The child collapsed just steps away from safety. Neighbors described hearing the gunfire and rushing outside in disbelief. At first, some thought it was fireworks until they saw the horror unfolding on the street. Julian lay injured and his cousins screamed for help. 911 was called immediately. First responders arrived within minutes and rushed Julian to the hospital. For hours, doctors tried to save him. But on August 31st, 2025, the tragic news came. Julian had passed away. A prank that should have ended in laughter had now ended in tragedy, and almost immediately questions began to swirl. Why had a grown man resorted to deadly force? What threat did two laughing children really pose? Investigators moved quickly to find answers, and the entire community braced itself for what would come next. At 42 years old, Gonzalo Leon Jr. was a longtime Houston resident. To some, he seemed like just another neighbor, quiet, keeping to himself, not known for drawing attention. But to others, there had been whispers of a man quick to frustration, someone who didn't always handle small annoyances with patience. He wasn't a stranger to the community, but he also wasn't deeply connected. Unlike the children playing in the streets or families gathering outside in the evenings, Leon mostly kept to himself behind closed doors. That Saturday night, though, when laughter echoed at his doorstep, it seems isolation and anger collided in the worst possible way. After the shooting, Houston police quickly responded. Witness statements, along with surveillance footage and evidence from Julian's phone, painted a clear picture of what had happened. Leon was taken into custody within hours. By September 1st, 2025, he appeared before a judge and was officially charged with murder. His bond was set at $1 million, reflecting the severity of the crime and the outrage it sparked across the community. Prosecutors revealed that they were considering whether the facts of the case could rise to the level of capital murder, which in Texas carries the most serious penalties. Investigators emphasized that the children had posed no threat, and that Leon's response was far beyond what could ever be considered reasonable. In the courtroom, the contrast was heartbreaking. On one side, Leon, calm, guarded, expressionless. On the other, Julian's grieving family, clutching photos of the boy who should have been starting another school year. His parents spoke quietly, their pain evident. He was just a child, they said. He was supposed to come home. Every hearing since has drawn both media attention and community members demanding justice. With Leon behind bars, the investigation now turned to building the strongest possible case. Detectives dug deeper into his actions, prosecutors prepared their arguments, and Julian's family braced themselves for a long and painful path through the justice system. But even as the legal process moved forward, the community outside the courthouse was already changed forever. News of Julian's death spread quickly across Houston. What shocked people wasn't only the loss of an innocent child, but the circumstances, a playful prank ending in gunfire. Neighbors organized vigils, lining the street with candles and flowers. Photographs of Julian, smiling in his school clothes, were placed near the spot where he fell. Community leaders called for calm, while parents held their children a little tighter, unable to shake the thought, it could have been any of us. At one vigil, a neighbor's voice cracked as she said, "He was just a kid being a kid. No child should ever lose their life for playing outside." As of September 2025, Gonzalo Leon Jr. sits in jail, charged with murder and held on a $1 million bond. Prosecutors have not ruled out upgrading the charge to capital murder, a decision that will depend on how evidence is interpreted in court. Investigators are reviewing data from Julian's phone, which may provide additional context about the children's movements that night. Surveillance video, 911 calls, and witness accounts will all play a role in shaping the case. Leon's defense may argue he acted out of fear or instinct, but prosecutors are firm that this was an unreasonable, unjustifiable response to a harmless prank. His next court date is scheduled for October 11th, 2025. Julian's case has reignited national debates about neighborhood safety, gun responsibility, and how quickly anger can lead to irreversible consequences. For his family, no verdict or sentence will ever bring Julian back. They now face birthdays, holidays, and ordinary days without the child who once filled their home with laughter. For the community, it's a reminder that even in the safest-seeming neighborhoods, tragedy can strike in an instant, not because of crime from strangers, but but because of choices made by those living just a few doors away. This is the story of Julian Guzman, an 11-year-old boy whose life ended on a warm summer night, not because of violence from the outside world, but because a simple prank met with a deadly response. A tragedy that shows us all how fragile innocence can be, and how one decision, one trigger pulled, can echo through families, neighborhoods, and entire cities forever.